I am Kike Lomatondawo. They call me the chief host of Real Talk with Kike, and of course I like to call myself the convener. Yes, I'm the founder of Real Talk with Kike platform, and of course the CEO of ZZ Consulting Limited. And on Silverbird platform, we bring in contemporary topics that affect us all, powerful force driving conversations or discussion that are societal issues and public, discourses and economic matters that affect us all as Nigeria, knowing that inflation today is not smiling at any of us. All right, so on this show we run all sorts of live conversation, also where we have already taken the conversation to social media, knowing that social media is a powerful tool today that we all cannot ignore, and we bring in stakeholders and influencers in the Nigerian economy and beyond. So on behalf of Real Talk with Kike team, and of course my sponsors first, without my sponsors I don't think I'll be doing this. My amiable sponsor, I say many thanks for believing in value. Thank you so much for supporting my dreams. Thank you so much for being there. And to all our fans out there, I say thank you so much for your continuum support. I do not take it for granted. I'm wishing you Merry Christmas and a prosperous 2023 in advance. But remember to stay positive, vote right, and God bless Nigeria. Excellent afternoon to all those who are watching us right now across the globe. I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk Week. And of course, it's Christmas season and the bells have just started jingling. Yeah, and the Fowowe is in the air and many of us can't wait to hug Christmas itself. Yes, of course, the kids are looking forward to for the Christmas, and of course the adults are also looking forward to bills. Yes, it's not always an interesting time for adults during this season, but well, different strokes for different folks. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike, and I remain your convener, Kike Lomatondawo. That hasn't changed regardless of the engagement. Yes. All right, so I think it's important for us to quickly go straight on this day in history segment. And exactly 22 years ago, the Population Crisis Committee ranked Lagos as the worst city in the world in December. And of course, I think that till date, I don't know if anything has changed, but you know what? Let's get more from our this industry segment. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I think it's important for me to just know that nothing has truly changed. Nothing has changed in terms of the ranking that happened with the Economist Intelligence Unit, as the EIU, in its 2022 ranking of the world's most livable cities, and Lagos came second. And I must emphasize that Lagos scored very low in all the 5 merits used to assess an individual's lifestyle in any country or in any state. And those 5 factors that was used to assess those things were healthcare, culture, stability, education, infrastructure. And it's unfortunate that even all these sectors that I'm talking about, we are found wanting when it comes to our leaders have prioritized the scale of preference of our needs in this country. But that story is for another day. It's obvious that nothing has improved, and it means that more work needs to be done. But I think it's a collective thing. I don't think that we all need to just point fingers at our government alone, because when you look at the 5 merit that was used, when it comes to culture is something that binds all of us together, regardless of your ethnicity and the likes and all of that. I just pray that we can get better, things can be done based on this population explosion in the state, and improvement will come 2023, hopefully. All right, it's time for a quick message from our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Many thanks for staying with us this season. Oh God, possibly one of the most anticipated period in the year. This is a period where everybody is hoping to receive, anticipating good things. Yes, good things. This period is when quite a number of people come together to rejoice. It's 25 people all over the world globally, and many reserve the best for the end of the year. Most people actually schedule their vacations in the festive season to maximize the family fun and, of course, the enjoyment that they derive from, coming together during this season. However, some salient aspects of holidays are ignored and not given due attention. Where am I coming from? I'm talking about many of us who work around the clock like me. Some of us, fail to realize that the period is a time for us to get our attention, or will I say better, get attention from, our emotions, connections, psychological towards our partners, our sponsors, our spouse rather. And of course, on the other hand, many don't even know that it's time to also understand the kids better, or, in terms of deliberate parenting. Yes, let me use the word, knowing that we have a scholar on the show today who is going to be sharing more light on parenting. And on the live show, guys, let me just dive straight to the topic at hand. The topic today is about marriages and parenting in the festive season. And we have a first-class international family engineering and development expert whose work and talks have benefited marriages and parenting in different contexts, however you look at it. But you know what, guys? Let me save my breath and let's get a quick look at his profile. Stay with us. We'll be right back. I think it's time for me to just unveil our guest. Welcome to the show, Praise Fowowe. It's a pleasure to have you again on Real Talk with Kike today. I'm glad and thankful that you can honor me despite the time difference from your zone for this interview. And I say I do not take our relationship for granted. How are you doing today? And how is the weather in Canada? Let's start from there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Kike. I'm in Alvin, Texas at the moment, not yet in Canada.
Okay.
And it's getting pretty cold. Yeah.
Talking about cold, I know that there are a lot of changes right now in the UK, a lot of changes in some parts of United States, and I just say you guys can actually, I pray that you guys stay warm and stay safe. But going straight to the topic at hand, let's start from marriages. The COVID-19 period showed us that when couples spent more time together, some marriages experienced turbulence while some bonded better, and that was the partly issues that was faced or that raised more things about themselves in that period in terms of getting to know one another better. So this is lesser but similar in terms of the festive period of Christmas and the likes and all of that. So I must ask an expert like this, like you, what's your concern and how we, or will I say the husbands and wives, in terms of co-functioning in this festive period in this Christmas? What's your advice for them? What's your take?
Okay. You see, I always say to people, and I said it during COVID because we ran a number of surveys across the globe during COVID. And one of the things that came out clearly was that COVID was an examination that showed the report card of a lot of the couples. Right. And so you found that a lot of couples couldn't stay together during COVID. Why? Because there were so many things, that stood as stopgap, before now, like they could attend church services, go for parties. And the moment those things were removed, it showed that many couples were not comfortable with themselves. Then the question now came, why did you get married to each other? It just means that they've not been servicing their relationships consistently now. Christmas time is here, again, the holiday period. And now the first problem that a lot of couples are going to have is a problem of not creating an intentional budget. Now, couples who don't have a clear, uniform budget for the season have been known to struggle tremendously because you're going to have pressures from different people depending on their spending pattern. The moment you don't sit down pre-Christmas, because never forget, especially for salary earners, they collect their salaries early in December, and the month of January looks very, very long. So a lot of people are finished spending everything they should spend between now and January by the 2nd or 3rd of January. And it's going to be a stressful month for many people because school fees is there. Some of them will pay rent and several other things they have to do. So what we usually recommend is before Christmas shows up at all, couples need to sit down and have a plan to say, what kind of Christmas can we afford right now? There is no point, trying to impress people. If you can't make it to the village, maybe because flight tickets, in Nigeria has gone up, then stay where you are. if you can't kill a goat or whatever, buy whatever you can buy because things are really going up. So it's usually the greatest stressor. It's in the demand from the external factors like, oh, children want this, you must buy this, you must buy that. You don't have to buy anything really, because Christmas is just about Christ. It's got nothing to do with you, So people need to understand the need to, cut their coat according to their cloth, not according to their size. And so when the issue of budget is totally taken out, then they can script their play and their fun, because it should be a season where couples review how the year has gone. But interestingly, data has consistently shown that many couples are cohabiting, they are not communicating, because usually communication takes a lot of skills, and that is non-existent in a lot of marriages. So for example, if you're listening to me and it is other people's matter that dominate your conversation with your spouse, you never talk about yourself, you never review your life, you never talk about the things you're going through. What you talk about mostly is about people, is about maybe religion and several other things, and you gossip, then it shows communication is non-effective. And the moment communication is a mess, you can be sure that the relationship is going to go downhill. So let it be a season where you sit together, you analyze, appraise your relationship. Are we still in love? What are the things we've stopped doing that we need to go back to? What are the things we need to stop doing? And those are it's a family season where everyone can give honest feedback about what it has been and what we need to do differently.
All right, fantastic submission right there. I think with what you've shared in terms of the insight on what they should be doing, I think let me use this opportunity, to actually market to our audience who are watching us right now. That remember that one of my sponsors, Eco Hotel, is actually they actually have a package in terms of staycation, in the country regarding to your pocket that our guests have actually emphasized on. So you can rush to Eco Hotel's website to get more information, knowing that Dubai, have also been shut down when it comes to our airlines and all of that. So quite a number of people cannot travel to UAE, for example. So Eco Hotel is the right place for you. Again, I say many thanks, praise for all you've shared thus far. You've touched on many things in terms of servicing your relationship, which I want to use the word nurturing. It's not just servicing right now. Where am I coming from? I'm coming from a place where I'm saying that there's an emotional and psychological aspect to marriages in this period. And yes, you've shared a lot, but I would like you to emphasize more in terms of, the love language, the love life, in terms of knowing that couples today, we live to pay, we are living to pay bills, and we actually ignore the emotional aspect in terms of connection. How should couples, get better in their love life, and of course, especially during this season?
I think the first thing couples need to learn to do, which we do, is if you can get someone who, not every practitioner can help you, but if you can get someone who has a certification in family system engineering and run an audit, they'll run a comprehensive audit of your marriage this season, right? It's a Fowowe test that reveals exactly where you are, reveals exactly the pain point, it reveals the gap in your relationship. Because, if you don't, an unexamined life is not worth living. Now, when you are done that, it will be very, very clear some of the trauma you bottled up, because trauma can kill a lot of relationships. And a lot of people have gone through trauma around the year that they've not been able to process. So you need to know that your spouse's personality could have changed as a result of the pressure during the year. Your spouse's love code, which Kike mentioned as love language, could have changed. And assessment is what helps you, discover that. So what you need to do, you want to ask your spouse this season, how would you want me to love you? How would you want me to serve you? What would you want me to do differently? We all know about the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, that some people, they process love through words of affirmation. Now, if you're married to a spouse who is not good with words, this is a season where they have to learn it. Because not speaking your spouse's love language, it's like trying to make a withdrawal where you have not made deposits, right? And the thing is, we are as vulnerable as our love languages. So if your spouse is words and you don't know how to use words, you have to learn it this season. If your spouse is gifts, you need to understand that it's about the consistency of the gift and the frequency, not even the quality of the gift. If your spouse is touch, then there's a season where you need to cuddle and you need to touch them. If your spouse is acts of service, it's a season you need to do things for them. I mean, that can be pretty hard if you have a woman whose love language is act of service and the man is an African man, because they will naturally think that the woman is trying to use them. Why should I cook? Why should I do this? But that is the way your spouse loves to receive I love you. And if it's quality time, then maybe the hotel thing will suit you properly, because then they want to be with you. It's a time to, if possible, drop the phone. A lot of us, when we're talking to our loved ones, we're still on our phone talking to other people. But you see, it's a sign that there is someone out there who is more important than the person you're talking to. And so even with your children, you drop the phone. This phone has always been with you, right? So it's a time to shut down. And a lot of our phones are stressors. We don't know. Unconsciously, if you are in 5 groups, for example, and you are part of the conversation in the 5 group, your brain is processing 5 different information simultaneously, right? So if it's like blending 5 different ingredients, in a blender at the same time, the stress and the strain, but it kills us softly. So it's a time to go on a phone fast, right? And to drop the phone so that you can at least observe your spouses. And I'll recommend an exercise called sensate focus in case you're married. Sensate focus is, if you're married, strip yourself nude if possible and observe your body at the same different times from head to toe. You will begin to spot wrinkles you have never seen, spot what life has done to both of you. Then you will appreciate your journey better and know what to do with each other. And if also possible, do exercise together this period. If you can't go to the gym, there are so many videos on YouTube that you can, those fun. And if possible, if you can't do that, go register for a salsa class. Salsa will teach you to step on each other's toes. It will improve your communication and it will add a lot of value to you.
Fantastic insights right there. And talking about salsa, stepping on each other's toes, I think it's important for me to touch on it. Where am I coming from? I'm talking about sea finish. Earlier you were talking about, how we should learn to actually put our phone aside, knowing that we spend, better, our phone has become another TV, so to speak, thanks to the mainstream media right now, because a lot of people spend a lot of time on their phones, I feel that the common problems have surfaced in marriages today in terms of this kind of period that we are in and all of that, and some even want to attribute it to sea finish, especially when it comes to doing a lot of things together during the season period, and all of that. Like for instance, the wife asking the husband to attend to the children, like you said in one of your submission, or the wife is asking the husband, can you please do dishes and the likes and all of that. I would like to ask you, as an expert with all the information you've shared thus far, how can couples actually avoid arguments and friction during this period that might actually lead to some breakups, however we look at it?
Arguments cannot be avoided. The effect of argument is what can be avoided, because argument is, and I think that's part of the problem, that people don't want to argue in a relationship. Your spouse is a different person from you. You have different worldview and different filters through which you process reality. A lot of men can't stand a woman who disagrees with them. Now, disagreement is not being respectful. Disagreement is that I'm a human being who has a different opinion. And if you're unwilling to listen to the opinion of someone who's totally different from you, then maybe you want to marry a zombie, and that in itself is disrespectful. Now, having said that, what I recommend is a day called Open Day that happens once in a week. Open Day is that day of the week and that time of the week. I ask couples to make it regular, where you are free to say whatever you want to say, the way you want to say it, and the way it's doing you. There are rules during Open Day. 1, nobody must get angry. That's 1. Number 2, nobody must be defensive during Open Day. Number 3, whatever I said cannot be used against the person who said it. And number 4, if what has been said is very significant, you need to make effort to change. Now, the reason for Open Day is to prevent pent-up emotion and pent-up anger, which can totally mess up the relationship. Relationships break due to unresolved trauma, and people are not able to talk. And you have a lot of couples a lot of spouses who can't stand the truth about their spouses. So people have to bottle up a lot of things. But if you institute the open day, even the children, if they're part of the open day, it solves a whole lot of problem, because then you can actually tell the person, you know what, I feel that you irritate me right now, and this is why you irritate me. And you have them listen. Remember, nobody gets angry, and you can't be defensive. And what your spouse is saying, if it is significant, you need to pay attention to it. And I usually love to give the example. One open day that we had, and my wife said to me, "Praise, you irritate me." And I was like, "What did I do?" She said, "Because you're always rushing your food." I didn't know I was rushing my food, honestly, until she mentioned it. And why was I rushing my food? I grew up in a family of 7, and I have a whole lot of extended families who were with us. And I went to a school where people that finish their food on time will come and join you to finish your food. So the survival strategy growing up was to rush your food and quickly finish it so that others don't join it. I had consistently rushed my food and had become unconsciously competent that when I stepped into marriage, I was still rushing my food. Now, even though the word she used was strong, but it was open day, you don't get angry. That was what she was feeling, right? And I had to consciously pay attention to it. And by the 3rd week, she told me I've improved. So when couples create that atmosphere where people can be honest and where people can say things the way it should be said or the way it's they are feeling it, it helps us prevent a lot of pent-up emotion, pent-up anger that can undermine the relationship and eventually sabotage it.
Thanks again for all you've shared regarding how to resolve issues and of course, arguments, and learning to embrace the truth from our partners, knowing that they come from a place of love. I think it's important for us to actually get a quick break from our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, glad to know you're still with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about marriage and parenting in the festive season. And of course, in the first segment of the show, I know I paid a lot of attention to marriages and of course how we've discussed about emotional, psychological aspects with a slight touch in common problems of friction and argument between spouses. And of course, our guests have been throwing a lot of light on this and I would like to say resolution, so to speak, on how to handle most of these challenges. And on the segment, still with our international guest, I like to refer to him, is Praise Fowowe, the founder of Central for Sex Education and Family Life and the principal consultant of the Institute of Family Engineering and Development in Africa. And I must say that many thanks thus far for all that you've been sharing, and we'll be having real talk again around parenting. I think I want to throw more light on parenting, and I think before I go further, let me use this opportunity to open our phone lines. Remember, you can be part of this conversation by calling our studio number 00988 77400, and we're streaming live. I think you can connect to us by our media platforms on Facebook and of course on YouTube. We're streaming live right now, and you can be part of this conversation. Praise, let me come to you quickly. A lot of parents check their academic performance but fail to check on the behavioral patterns and new habits that they have imbibed from their environment, their environs. And I must say, with all that you've shared thus far, talking about the psychological aspect, talking about how we can all co-parent and understand that friction will always take place, how should parents actually balance their attention for academics and moral development, knowing that today power of character is really important and social media has taken the center stage of influence? What's your take on this?
I think the parameters by which we measure success is faulty in Africa generally. I look at my children's report card, for example, and there is heavy emphasis on character and character development. Now, also, how we interpret good behavior is also faulty. So take, for instance, a typical school. The child they call best behaved is the child who never rocks the boat, who never questions the authority, the child who is almost zombie-like, who is very quiet, never fights anybody, never argues with anybody. That's what you call best behaved. That cannot be best behaved, because the child that questions everyone is called a truant. It's a school.
Apologies, Praise, I have to interrupt your line of thought. We have Jubril from Sokoto calling in. Jubril, many thanks for calling. What's your contribution on the topic at hand?
Good afternoon.
Excellent afternoon, Jubril.
Yes. I like your show, and I listened to your guest say something about what his wife told him that he's washing food.
Can you please speak a
I,
little bit louder?
I listened to your guest when he said that there was a day his wife told him that he was washing his food. I think it's good that his wife can control husband and the husband understand his wife. In some cases, husband will just take it in another way. But if the marriage understand
I'm
themselves.
sorry, I have to let this go. Praise, please, can you please go ahead? I think what he's trying to explain is that in terms of your example that you lay out earlier regarding your wife, noticing that you rush your food, what do you have to say to how some men, so to speak, do not actually receive correction and they find it difficult to actually communicate? I think that's what our guest is trying to say. And while you still return to my previous question.
Okay, so let me focus on. I mean, how people receive feedback. It's a different ballgame entirely. It's a communication issue, and there are better ways to communicate things. But I mean, Open Day was instituted so that people can say it the way they want to say it. Which is valid. If people who can't take feedback actually shouldn't be in a relationship. Many people can't take feedback, and I wonder why they're doing a relationship. Now, back to what I was saying. So if our parameters are faulty, then we wouldn't know what to look out for, because report card does not cover the totality of your child. Your child can have straight A's in the report card, but your child can also pick up a behavior on pornography addiction from the school that report card does not reflect. Your child can be a child who never thinks, who never takes responsibilities, whose leadership is very poor, that report card cannot pick. And that's why the school system, it's a partnership between the parent and the school. Now, your responsibility as a parent is to also create what we call domestic educational system for your child, wherein you have a curriculum of behaviors you want to instill in your child. And you must have your own parameters of testing and mastery of those behaviors. So, for example, if you have children who just dump their plates and they don't wash their plates once they finish eating, in my house, you have to wash your plate. So you have to create what we call the eating process. The eating starts from the time the food is dished, but eating never ends until the plate is washed, right? You can say sleeping process is sleeping start once you go have your bath and wear your pajamas, but it never ends until the bed is laid. Now, so you can actually check how they lay their beds every day, which is part of, some patterns you are instilling in them. So we cannot totally, focus on, your aptitude and now avoid attitude, because ultimately in life, it's been said that your attitude will determine your altitude. So you can have, intelligent fools, for lack of a better word. You can have, geniuses who lack the capacity, the character, to retain what they call their intelligence. Eventually, they're going to crash. So it is the job of the parents, and I'm going to charge every Nigerian parent, create your own domestic educational system out, because the school system we have right now, the curriculum Nigeria has, cannot produce a robust and a wholesome child for you, especially with the advent of the internet and social media. Your job, for example, if you have a child in secondary school, at what age do you want to give a phone to a child? What kind of phone do you want to give? Is it an internet-enabled phone? And if you're giving an internet-enabled phone, what are the apps you install that helps you know if your child strays into a website that the child should not stray into? And what is the phone usage time? At what point do you drop the phone? For example, if you're giving a phone to a child who is less than 13, there must be rules such as at 8 o'clock, you got to drop the phone. Because if your child takes the phone to the room, they're going to use that phone overnight and they're not going to get enough sleep. A child needs about maybe 10 hours of sleep. Number two, your phone cannot be passworded because you don't have a phone. It was given to you on trust. The problem is parents want to keep up with the Joneses. So you will see, this person gave a phone. So, and you see the quality of phone. Oh, iPhone 13, 14, I must buy for my child. At the end of the day, The child cannot pay attention to school. The child, even if he pays attention to school, the child is in some funny site where nudes are being shared and whatever, and problem keeps occurring. So I think it's a problem with parents when we understand that parenting has a threefold assignment. One is discovery, two is development, and three is deployment. So you will help your child discover who they are. Two, you will collaborate with your child to develop who they are to the best level. Then you will help your child deploy who they are to benefit their world in service to God and humanity. That's what I think parents need to do, especially this period. And it's a good time to have conversations with your child. There are behaviors you must have noticed. You want to ask, especially if you're dealing with Generation Z and Generation Alpha, they are an argumentative generation. But you know what? They deal with collaboration. If you help them bring the answers out of them and they champion the answer, you can be sure that they will promote it and, they will master it. But if you go by the old rule of 18th century and 19th century of rules and regulations, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that, they will sabotage you. You won't even enjoy yourself, and they won't even enjoy themselves as well.
All right, fantastic summation, praise right there. And I like the fact that you've given us all sort of insight from different perspectives, understanding that the phone was given on trust, and of course, when it comes to domestic educational system that you've mentioned, and when it comes to also discovering collaboration and the benefit to the world in terms of their character. So listening to you thus far, earlier I spoke about the social media, because I feel that the fact that, let me use my son as an example, he's 13. I remember when I first gave him his phone, and he actually quickly went to Google to go and to check what type of phone is it, how much does it cost, and the likes and all of that. I knew that was the time for me to sit in there and let him understand value for earning, and how the mother is actually working hard, regardless of whatever thing you think that you are receiving is not based on entitlement or thinking that you have to follow the trend. And I like the fact that you actually mentioned the timing of how phone usage should be used with children. But let me bring you back to social media, which was part of the question I asked you earlier. I feel that you need to actually, give more insights regarding that aspect. And where am I coming from? I know that social media exposure today, especially the online access, is affecting a lot of kids, which is some of the things that you've mentioned earlier. And of course, I know during this festive period, you give them more exposure to gadgets. Sometimes parents actually deliberately give this gadget to the children just to, let them be, more or less like a distraction or whatever. I must ask you, how can parents actually guide against the series of negatives like porn, gambling, or sometimes there's all sorts of apps today that I feel that even parents do not know exist, that the children are actually, tapping into in terms of this gadget exposure. What's your advice for the parents?
Okay. You say social media can be a blessing and it can be a curse. Unfortunately, it's becoming more of a curse than a blessing to our people. My team ran a survey around Lagos, I think about 4 months ago. And that was even before Lagos State government now issued a statement of the high rise in HIV prevalence. And Ethiopia led, in the highest, increase in HIV prevalence across Lagos. Now, before that report was released, we ran a survey to know social media use and the effects and the impact on the children. And we were able to break Lagos down into three groups. And we were able to look at the sexual behavior of the children in secondary schools in different areas. And it was quite a eye-opening sessions when we began to collate that report. As a matter of fact, Ethiopia had some scary sexual behavior induced from social media interaction and phone interaction that we had never seen before. Now, a lot of parents are not aware that their children are in groups, they're in WhatsApp groups, they have apps, that they are not aware of.
Praise, apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought. We have a caller right now from Port Harcourt. Sunday, many thanks for calling. What's your contribution on the topic at hand? I will appreciate if you can, make it fast.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, I've been listening to your guests. I want to ask him a question. Okay, this holiday that is coming, there are so many bills that family are going to be paid. Is it better to share the bills between your wife? Your wife takes it as an offense for you to share the bills. I think it's very, very hard. I don't know where he is, whether he's in Nigeria or where he is.
We are having some network issues right there. Apologies, I have to let that go. Praise, you can go ahead, please. Regarding
Yeah,
the
he's
Ethiopia
asking,
that
I
have
actually had the question. He
Okay.
wants to know if it's right to share the bills with your wife.
Okay.
I can't legislate what happens in your family. However, what we recommend is you guys should have a budget. If you have a budget, you know what both of you earn. What you both earn is your internally generated revenue, which must be deployed in the direction of your family economy, which means the way it works in a typical family, data together. Because when couples are not together when it comes to finances, I don't know what else they're together doing, right? Is the fact that you know your budget, you know what needs to be spent, you know what both of you bring in, then you know what needs to be contributed to the family economy, then you know what both of you need to retain. That's the simplest way to do it, rather than you pay this, you do that, and what have you, right? Because if both of you work, then both of you contribute to the family. Now, talking about social media, I would submit that parents need to pay a lot of attention. Now, don't tell me that you are a parent and you are an illiterate. Everything can be learned. I have a mother who is 80 years old who functions very well on social media, right? Because she began to learn how it works. Your children are exposed to all sorts. And, you know, the result we got in Lagos was quite scary, especially children schooling in Ethiopia and schooling in many of the top schools, right? So what you need to do is we need to bring back a lot of games that is non-social media related. Social media is a virtual world. When your child develops a pattern, you know, addiction is built around the science of neuroassociative conditioning, that it's pseudo love that is not visible. And so when your child the brain begins to associate pleasure to staying by yourself, giving satisfaction to yourself, getting into porn and things like that, it begins to long for a repeat performance, and that's how addictions are built. What you need to do, like we rightly said, is to sit with your children, educate them, because who your child is what they promote on social media. If your child is very rude, they will be rude on social media and talk down people and, you know, drag people. That's the word they use. If you have raised your child properly with right family values, that is what your child will project on social media. But also, there are apps like Covenant Eyes that you can install that tells you if your child goes out of touch or goes into some sites that you do not promote, right? I was still talking to my son yesterday. There was one site he went on and we received the feedback that was going on that site. So I wanted to check what was this at, and I realized that, it's the new streaming site for games and the things they play and blah blah. And we had to talk about it because he has exams next week, and he said, okay, that I'm not going to get him there again until after my exam. You need to have honest conversation. The problem is many parents don't respect their children, and many children are hiding from their parents because you have not created the ideal environment where the child can be honest about whatever they're going through. Once you address
apologies, I have to interrupt your line of thought again. Praise. I have a caller from Benin, Edo State, Jita. Many thanks for your contribution on the topic at hand. Please go straight to the point.
Hi, Kike. It's great to be on the show today.
Thank you.
And yeah, so talking about the management of managing the season and parenting this period, I think that now, because of the pressure that parents are feeling to celebrate and do a lot of things with their family, they should see it as a period to build memories. It might be or feel like a lot of work because of the kids and the needs the children want, the desires and everything, the pressure. They are not in school anymore. They are all on holidays. So they should just see it as another time to spend with family and just enjoy every moment of it and not think of it as stress. That way it won't feel like work.
All right, many thanks for your suggestion on the topic at hand. You know, Praise, with all that you've been sharing thus far, I cannot help but quickly tilt towards child trafficking, knowing that you've shared a lot regarding what the 360 survey that your team did regarding the behavioral pattern of children during this Z age and the likes and all of that. You know, child trafficking, kidnapping, child abuse is on the rise today, and there's no better time for us, more than for us, to actually throw more light on the security consciousness of our children. So I must ask you, what are the tips that you can give to parents on this during this festive period, you know, in terms of how to guide their children on who to respond to, how to respond to people, and when to bring it to the fore to their parents?
You see, what I always say is every family needs to create their own village. Now, your village is not where you come from. Your village is a group of people or a location that believes in your beliefs, share your beliefs, and share your ideals and your ideologies. Now, usually I recommend find 5 to 10 other families who share your ideals. And if you can do that, then do a community parenting. Africa says it takes a village to raise a child. We're losing a sense of village, and that's why kidnapping is right. That's why other people's children can misbehave, and it's none of our business, right? If we go back to communal community development, then we will be able to collaborate to protect every child, because no child is safe until every child is safe. So I am going to recommend that within this period, because for the life of me, Kike, I often try to think about people who kidnap. Why would they kidnap a child for ritual killing? It doesn't sit well in my brain that somebody can actually use a child for money ritual or something like that. But that's the reality. But parents need to talk to their children, and you need to sit with your children this period before this festival. Plan how the period is going to pan out. Plan fun activities. So if you have a community, for example, you say it takes a village, for example, we're going to visit this family, we're going to visit that family, and we're going to collaborate, get into a bus to go to where would you guys want to go to? Get all the children together, let them be part of the choosing, and make it budget friendly. Then visit those places together. Children can have a lot of fun without necessarily going to the places where they will be in harm's way. And the other thing is, please educate your girl child. A lot of girl children get raped this period. And I mean, the extreme cases is when I tell ladies, if you're going to visit someone, make sure it's in the open. And if you really, really love to take drinks, take your drink along by yourself, because I know that sometimes juices are injected with some drugs that knocks the girl off. By the time she wakes up, she wouldn't even know what has happened to her. The times are evil, right? And so if you can't plan the village system and plan the village outing, please sit with your children, educate them, get to know their friends. If possible, to control things, let them do the party in your house. At least that way, you are in control of your environment. Oh, we want to go and do this party. No, let's do the party. We can create like 10 parties, right? Let your friend come, let them come and dance. You're observing their behavior, you're observing their values. And if possible, get interested in the families of your children's friends, so that you know whether the values align and you know how to. I mean, these are simple tips to protecting your own child without necessarily coming across as someone, who is too high-handed and trying to spoil their fun.
Thanks and praise for all that you've shared thus far. These are nuggets that will help many homes today with all that is happening across globe, especially when it comes to the security aspect of our country, Nigeria. And I think that, moving on to the last segment of the show, I think I just want to sail towards the fact that I need your opinion, as one of our diaspora. I can't help but, touch on this. Our discussion isn't complete as far as I'm concerned without talking about what binds us as Nigerians, and I think that what I would like to ask you today, for the closing segment of the show is that 2023 is around the corner, praise. Power is changing hands, and we are going to be having a replacement of leadership come February, March. I would like to hear your concerns, your thoughts, your advice from the diaspora for Nigerians towards the election voting and making the right choice, knowing that, we cannot afford to go through another failure of bad leadership. I think we've had enough. What's your advice right now for Nigerians in diaspora?
It's people think that when you leave Nigeria, when you're out of Nigeria, you forget about Nigeria. I wish I could do that, but it's almost impossible. As news are breaking in Nigeria, we are receiving it here as well, and it's worrisome for us. I teach leadership, and I believe that leadership is service. Leadership is not entitlement. And so the man that seeks to be the leader of all must be the servant of all. I think Nigeria needs to pick a leader who sees himself or herself as, first of all, our servant, knowing that we are going to hire you. It's not the other way around, right? You can't lord it over us. We have to hire you and pick you, and you have to be accountable to us. And so I think the next president of Nigeria, and not all the governors, because we over-focus, overemphasize the presidency when the local government chairmen are doing more damage, and maybe the governors are even doing bigger damage than the people in the House of Assembly. Whosoever has to serve, I wish I can institute a law that says if you want to serve Nigeria, come and serve for free. It must be someone, who doesn't really need money and can serve for free. If you want to serve, let's pay you minimum wage. However, in making our choices, it cannot be about what you stand to gain. It cannot be, we can't mortgage the future over rice, over beans, over whatever. You need to think of your children. Add another 8 years to your age. We already have seen what we have done in the last 8 years. Add another 8 years to your age. Some of us will be in our 50s at that age. Do you want to waste the next 8 years? So look for all the candidates. Look for the man with competence, with character, the man who can truly serve, who truly want to serve, and who believes that the nation can be greater. I think Nigeria is a great country. I see my people, what we do here in the diaspora. I think we need to come together. Someone who can provide a vision for the nation and who can galvanize all of us around that vision to create the nation of our dream, the potential that we think this nation is capable, of delivering. So please, let's find the servant leader among all the candidates, and let's all rally around that person. Let's vote the person we can fire, not the person who can lord things over us and who becomes unreachable when they get there.
Fantastic right there. Again, I say many thanks, praise for coming on the live show today. It's been an interesting time with you on Real Talk with Kike. And I think that for me, I think just to add to what you've shared, I'd like to say vote right. God bless Nigeria. And remember, power of character is important in all that we do right now in terms of placing the right person on the corridor of power. Till I come your way next week or on Thursday, remember to put a smile on somebody's face and be kind to one another. Bye now.